What if the family that shamed your dreams ended up living off the empire you built in secret? My name is Ruby Lawson, and I was born in a town where dreams came with strings attached. Prescott, Oregon, a place so small you could drive through it before your morning coffee cooled, was painted in tradition and paved with expectations. In my family, ambition wasn't just encouraged, it was dictated. College degrees hung like trophies in our hallway, revered more than kindness, louder than passion. My parents measured worth in acceptance letters and GPA rankings, not in joy or creativity. My father, Douglas Lawson, was a veteran political science lecturer at Oregon State University. He walked like he was heading to a podium even on weekends, dressed like he had a press conference to attend, and spoke with the cadence of a practiced intellectual. My mother, Linda Lawson, served as the principal of Prescott High School, the only one in town. A strict woman whose eyes could slice through rebellion like a scalpel through silk. She believed mistakes happened when people strayed from the rule book. Discipline and tradition were her doctrine. And then there was my sister, Natalie Lawson, the golden child. At 4, she could recite the Declaration of Independence. At 18, she earned a full ride to Harvard Medical School. The day she announced her scholarship, the entire extended family gathered. My father raised his glass and declared, "This is the future of America." I stood by the sink, rinsing out a soda can, and tried to pretend the comment wasn't aimed squarely at me. I wasn't like Natalie. I didn't hate studying, but my heart wasn't in textbooks and Scantron sheets. At 12, I fixed a neighbor's printer in exchange for $10 and a movie ticket. At 15, I built a website for Miss Martin's flower shop and helped her make her first online sale 3 days later. I was fascinated by what happened behind the screen, the quiet magic of code turning ideas into something real. The first time I wore an outfit from PVJ, a small startup fashion brand I admired, I thought maybe my parents would notice me. Instead, my mother pursed her lips and said, "Focus on the SATs. These hobbies won't get you into Columbia." My father didn't even look up from his paper. "If you want to be a lifetime tech support girl, keep it up. Just don't expect a dime from us." They weren't cruel, just rigid. And that was worse. At every meal, Natalie was praised like scripture. Natalie was chosen to present at the Boston Symposium. "Professor Landon says she has natural leadership potential." Me? I was asked, "Ruby, are you retaking the math section of the SAT a third time?" In May of my senior year, we sat around the dinner table, college applications spread out like a blueprint of someone else's future. Stanford, Princeton, Yale. My father had printed each packet and arranged them by deadline. My heart pounded. I could barely breathe. "I'm not applying to college," I said. Silence. "I want to start my own business. I already have my first client and nearly $4,000 saved." A fork clattered. My mother's lips tightened. My father slowly stood. "That's not happening. Not under this roof." The disgust in his eyes. I'd never forget it. Like I'd declared I wanted to rob banks for a living. I didn't argue. I just stood, walked to my room, and began packing. 1 week later, I left home with 3 suitcases, an old laptop, and the kind of determination that only blooms when you're told you're nothing. My first apartment was a drafty 450 square foot unit on the 3rd floor of a crumbling building in the Portland suburbs. The floors creaked, the walls were stained, and the kitchen was so narrow I could touch both counters with outstretched arms. But it was mine. The first place I could breathe without needing permission. I bought a second-hand wooden table and shoved it under the only outlet in the living room. That became my office. Each morning, I brewed coffee in a faded drip machine and sat at that table until the streetlights flickered on. No salary, no support. Just me and a dream called Rustic Cart. Rustic Cart wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't sleek or funded, but it was real. I wanted to help local artisans sell their products online. Pottery, candles, baskets. Oregon was full of talent but disconnected from the digital world. I took a 5% commission on every sale. The rest belonged to them. I coded by day, cold emailed by night. Most people didn't reply. Some laughed. One even sent a laughing emoji and said, "Good luck with that." My bank account bled dry faster than I thought. I lived on instant noodles and boiled eggs. I kept the heat on. not for comfort, but to chase away fear. Once, I called my mother just to hear her voice. When I mentioned I hadn't gone back to school, she replied, "Then don't expect anyone to be waiting for you." That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment for an hour, silent. 3 months after launch, I had 2 clients, Josie, a soap maker, and Walter, a retired woodcarver who called me Lucy by mistake but still paid me $20 a month to manage his orders. That $20 paid my electric bill. Then came February. I was rear-ended at an intersection. No one was hurt, but my car was totaled. The repair estimate? $800. I had $42.61 in my bank account. I nearly gave up, but desperation drives discovery. That night, I saw a flyer for a free small business meetup at the downtown library. I went, alone, no expectations. I just need to feel like I wasn't the only one fighting invisible battles. That's where I met Marcia Bennett. She was in her 50s, silver hair tied back, sharp eyes, simple clothes. She founded Ledgerflow, an accounting software for small businesses. When the session ended, I waited for the room to clear, then approached with shaking hands. "I'm Ruby. I help artisans sell online. No degrees, no funding, but I have clients and data." I showed her a few charts from my laptop. Modest numbers, real results. She looked, she listened. "You're not selling products," she said finally. "You're selling software. You're B2B. I blinked. "Instead of one soap bar at a time, sell your system to 50 shops. You're already solving a problem. Just scale it." That night, I didn't sleep. I renamed the company Craft Logic Solutions. Rustic. Cart sounded like a farmer's market. Craft Logic? That sounded like the future. I had no money, no office. Just believe. I rewrote my entire codebase, built a demo dashboard, and started emailing craft store owners across the West Coast. No one saw the hours I put in, the tears behind the keyboard, the cracked screen I couldn't afford to replace. But within 30 days, I signed my first B2B contract. A furniture chain called Maple and Sage needed inventory tracking. We delivered it. That deal changed everything. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was becoming. The Maple and Sage contract wasn't just a victory, it was a lifeline. With the initial $150,000 payment, I fixed my car, paid off my utility debts, and for the first time, hired someone. Jared, a quiet UX design student I met at a local meetup, became my first team member. He was tall, wore thrifted sweaters, and spoke in clean sketches. His ideas made sense the moment he drew them. We turned my apartment into our office whiteboards. On the fridge door, ramen boxes as desks, and laptops humming late into the night. Craft Logic transformed. No longer a patchwork idea born of desperation. It became a legitimate platform tailored for artisan businesses. We added new modules: shipping integration, customer analytics, and purchase forecasting. I began to see the product not as a glorified digital storefront but as a robust operational toolkit. With every new feature, we moved closer to becoming indispensable. We weren't just digitizing businesses, we were streamlining them, giving them back time, control, and confidence. And word was spreading. Small business forums began mentioning us. Etsy sellers emailed asking if we could help them manage multiple fulfillment channels. My inbox started receiving inquiries not just from Oregon but from Texas, Arizona, and even New York. Then came Rebecca Tran from Craft, a major craft material chain across California. She'd seen our Maple and Sage deployment through a retail software newsletter. Her email was blunt. "Show me what it can do." We didn't sleep for days. Jared and I built a fully functional multi-location inventory simulator, designed a clean dashboard, and created a live alert system for stockouts, order spikes, and vendor delays. When we launched a demo on a Zoom call, Rebecca didn't blink. "Can you integrate this with our existing accounting software?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. Even though I knew we'd need to build a custom connector from scratch, she looked away from the screen, nodded at someone off camera, and said, "When can you deliver?" 60 days, done. Contract incoming. That deal, 63000, The growth after that wasn't just fast, it was volcanic. I officially incorporated Craft Logic in Oregon, opened a small co-working space in Beaverton, and hired our first full-time employees, 2 software engineers, a project manager, and a part-time accountant. By the end of year 2, we were running full-style deployments for over 60 artisan retailers and boutique chains. We were profitable, self-funded, resilient. Every day I walked into that office, past the welcome sign Jared drew on the whiteboard in dry erase marker, I felt like I was stepping into something sacred. But I kept it all hidden. To the outside world, especially to my family, I was still Ruby, the dropout daughter, probably scraping by. I drove a used Subaru, wore old coats, answered questions with deflections. Oh, I just help local shops with websites. Then one day, everything changed. My father, Douglas, was laid off after 28 years at Oregon State University. Budget cuts eliminated his department. He was 61, without another source of income. A week later, my mother was diagnosed with an autoimmune thyroid condition. The treatment required expensive, specialized medications, not covered by insurance. Natalie, ever perfect, gave a flat reply. I'm swamped at the hospital. I can't help. I sat in my office that day, staring at a bank statement my mother accidentally forwarded to an old email. One line stood out: mortgage payment overdue by 16 days. Below that, prescription total 1,823. They never asked me for help. Probably thought I couldn't, but I could. Through my lawyer, Robert Kane, I set up a nonprofit shell called Spring Hill Holdings, a fabricated educational support initiative. Through it, I paid their mortgage every month, quietly, legally, no names attached. At the same time, I created a shell company, Brightstone Consulting, registered in Idaho. Brightstone hired my father as a freelance civic education consultant, a fake contract for $2,000 a month. He wrote lesson plans no one would ever read, but he had a purpose again. And when I found out Natalie had just given birth to twins and couldn't afford the daycare she wanted, 2 new scholarships suddenly appeared under the name Northwest Infant Potential Fund, each worth $9,500 annually. For Jacob and Lily Winters, Natalie posted on Facebook, "It's a miracle. God always provides." I didn't comment. I smiled. But it was the kind of smile that you give yourself. Quiet, tired, and a little broken. Over the next 3 years, I gave over $120,000 to support them: housing, medication, education. I asked for nothing. I never told them. I just kept the payments coming. By the time we hit year 3, Craft Logic's annual revenue passed $1.2 million. We cleared $300,000 in net profit. I was invited to speak at the Women in Tech West Coast conference. TechBridge Weekly ran a feature calling me the tech sorceress of the artisan sector, and yet, every holiday when I went home, my mother would ask, "Still not thinking about going back to school?" My father would nod like he was extending mercy to a lost cause. They didn't know. They had no idea that the woman sitting at their table paid their mortgage. They had no idea that the infant grant Natalie praised online was designed and approved by their daughter. They didn't know. But I did. And I carried that truth like armor. Then, on Thanksgiving Day, gloomy, gray, and cold, I made a decision. A rare bottle of red wine in hand and a carefully printed folder in my bag, I stepped into the house not as the black sheep, but as the wolf who built her den. Thanksgiving in Salem had always followed the same script: silent expectations, forced pleasantries, and a pedestal only big enough for one daughter. This year, I came armed with evidence and resolve, not to destroy anyone, but to end a lie. Dinner began at exactly 6 p.m. My mother plated the stuffing with practiced grace. My father hovered with his wine glass like a seasoned orator, and Natalie floated in, crisp and coiffed, already glowing in her private success. Her husband, Matthew, chuckled as he lifted the twins into their booster seats, joking, Let's not let them play with Aunt Ruby's laptop again. No one wants a toddler coding at age 3. I let it slide. We raised our glasses. Toasts were made. My father, naturally, stood to deliver a speech, 3 minutes long, celebrating Natalie's latest medical accolades and Matthew's research publication. I sat silent, smiling politely as though I were watching a stage play I'd already read the script for. When the turkey had been carved and everyone's plates were full, I reached into my bag and placed the folder on the table. "I'd like to share something," I said. Silence fell like snow. My mother frowned, probably assuming I'd printed some resume or a community college course plan. Natalie tilted her head, already skeptical. I opened the folder and slid a magazine to the center, TechBridge Weekly, the headline blaring in bold. Ruby Lawson, the tech sorceress of the artisan sector. A photo of me smiling, poised, confident, greeted them. My father picked it up, flipped through it as if searching for forgery. "Where did you get this?" "I didn't get it," I said evenly. "I lived it." Page by page, I laid it out. The contracts, the software, the clients, the revenue. CraftLogic Solutions is valued at $47 million. Over 180 employees. Offices in Portland, Denver, and San Diego. And I said, laying out the bank records and fabricated trust paperwork, the nonprofit that's been paying your mortgage. That was me. The consulting gig for Dad. Me. The infant scholarships for Jacob and Lily. Me. The room went still. My father stood abruptly, his face flushed. "You're making this up. A dropout pretending to be some tech CEO? Do you think we're fools?" "I think," I said quietly, "that you're afraid I succeeded without your approval." Natalie slammed her fork down. "I've worked 14-hour shifts to become a doctor, and you write code in pajamas and suddenly you're someone important?" I stared at her. I ate dry ramen because I couldn't afford to boil water. I slept 3 hours a night to build something real. "Don't mistake invisibility for ease." My father's voice rose. "Enough. I won't listen to this. You're a fraud, a disgrace to everything this family believes in." I stood up, calm, collected. "No," I said. "I'm the one who kept this family afloat. And as of today, I'm done paying to be disrespected." I turned, collected the folder, and walked to the door. My mother followed, lightly grabbing my wrist. "Ruby, what about next month's support?" I looked at her. "People who think I'm a disgrace don't get to live off my success." I left, out into the cold, where the rain kissed my face like freedom. The next morning, I boarded a 6:15 a.m. flight out of PDX, headed to Florida. Not for business, for life. My house in Clearwater, the one I'd bought but barely visited, became home. The grapefruit trees in the backyard, the sea breeze off the coast, they didn't judge. They just existed, and I needed that. The first thing I did was redecorate. I hired Elena, a local designer with an eye for minimalist comfort. The old furniture was donated. The walls went white, open, airy, alive. Next, I made it official. I opened CraftLogic's new East Coast headquarters in Clearwater's West Bay Business District. Jared, Rachel, and Dominic all volunteered to relocate. We rebuilt the core team, this time with transparency and intention. We secured new clients in Florida, expanded operations, and launched our next-gen product suite. A Boston firm offered a new valuation, $59.7 million. But the money no longer defined me. What defined me was clarity. I no longer wore humility as a disguise. I wore it as a choice. I no longer answer to a past version of myself created by people too afraid to see me. I met Caleb Meyer at a local tech networking event. His presence was effortless. His questions were about passion, not profit. We talked about Thai food and tech equity. 3 dates later, we walked barefoot along the beach, earbuds shared, playlists mixed. No pretense, just breath, sand, and possibility. "You're the only person I know who built a company and kept it hidden," he said, laughing softly. "Maybe because," I replied, "I thought if they knew, they'd try to take it from me. And now, if someone can't accept all of me, they don't get any of me." I created the Ruby Foundation, a fund for young founders without degrees. We didn't care about GPAs. We cared about grit. Alicia Monroe, 22, from El Paso, became our first recipient. She wept on the Zoom call. I didn't think anyone would pick me when my resume only said high school diploma. I told her, maybe you just hadn't met the right reviewer yet. Then one afternoon in June, my phone rang. Natalie, it said. I hesitated. Then I answered. Her voice was quiet, rough around the edges. I'm not calling to ask for anything. I just wanted to say, thank you, and I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say, but I whispered, thanks for calling. Not forgiveness, not a reunion, just the start of something real. The sun hung low over the Gulf when I received the letter. A simple envelope, handwritten, slanted script I hadn't seen in years, from Douglas Lawson. No return address. No ceremonial weight. Just the faintest scent of dust and something like humility. Ruby, I don't know where to begin, so I'll be direct. I was wrong. Wrong to believe success only comes dressed in academia and robes. Wrong to measure your worth through degrees and titles. When you spoke the truth at dinner, I broke down. Not because you were cruel, but because I realized I had built an identity that couldn't accept you if you don't forgive me. I understand, but I need you to know I'm proud of you. I sat on my porch staring at the envelope for a long time after reading it. My hand didn't tremble. My heart didn't rage. It just softened. 3 days later, I sent a postcard. Thank you for writing. I'm building the life I always dreamed of. If you want to be part of it, the only condition is respect. I didn't open every door, but I cracked a window. I told myself, this isn't about returning to the past. This is about building new terms. Then came a call from a landline I hadn't seen in ages. Hi, Ruby, it's Mom. Linda. Pause. Your father and I. We'd like to come visit Florida next month, just to see you. She waited. I asked calmly, in what capacity? As the daughter you cast out? Or as the CEO you read about in magazines? As our daughter. Just our daughter, if you'll allow it. I didn't answer then. I needed time. 3 weeks later, I chose a modest coastal cafe in Clearwater. Outdoor seating, ocean breeze, the kind of place without assumptions. They arrived at exactly 9 a.m. My father moved slower than I remembered. His hair is mostly white now. My mother wore a beige dress, her expression unreadable. They sat across from me. No newspaper, no rehearsed remarks for a full minute. We just breathed. Finally, my father said, I read your interview in Founders Weekly. What you've built, it's extraordinary. I nodded. Thank you. My mother spoke next. It took us a long time to understand you never needed to be a copy of anyone. Don't say that unless it's true, I said. Calm, not combative. I'm not here for a polished speech. She looked down, then simply nodded. My father leaned forward. You once asked me, if I didn't see you as the pride of the family, then what did I see? Today, I want to answer. I see proof that I was wrong. I didn't cry. I didn't lean in, Dad. Mom, I don't live for your approval anymore. I didn't build craft logic to be forgiven. I built it to be free. We talked about the weather, about a new boardwalk they'd seen, even about Natalie's kids, though I wasn't ready to see them yet. As we left, my mother reached for a hug. Not tight, not desperate, just enough. They flew back to Salem that evening. I didn't look back. Sunday dinners became something sacred. In Clearwater, I hosted long, unpolished tables under hanging lights. Homemade bread, grapefruit spritzers. People who saw me. Caleb always arrived early, bringing fresh herbs or vinyls we'd play while cooking. Jared brought corny startup jokes. Alicia, now running her clinic scheduling app, sometimes cried when talking about her first investor pitch. No one asked where I studied. No one cared. One night, after everyone had left, I looked out at the ocean from the porch. The moonlight danced across the waves like it knew something I didn't. And then I realized I had spent so much of my life trying to prove I belonged, only to learn that freedom doesn't come from being accepted. It comes from accepting yourself. I didn't forgive them because they changed. I forgave them so I could be free. I wasn't moving forward to prove anything. I was moving forward because I was already whole.